Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, April 3rd. Woo, we are in Q2, my friends. Things are moving quickly. If you have not joined us before, I'm a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations of all types to help them achieve measurable and sustainable sales increases. If you have joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales, and today is no exception, my friends. Before I introduce our guest, who you can plainly see, and it's very early for her, she's on the West Coast, I just wanted to point out two things. One is that it is Q2, and that now is the time to get busy. If you've been relaxing in Q1 and taking it easy and thinking you have plenty of time, you did. Guess what? You still do, but now's the time to make sure it happens, because you don't want to call somebody like today's guest or myself in October or November and say, hey, I need help. How am I going to hit my quota by the end of the year? You're not. Now is the time to get the help you need. So please do that. The other thing I wanted to point out is I received a call this morning. Now, the call I got was from somebody who sent me an email about a week ago, unsolicited. And by the way, one of the things I do for people is I sometimes do fractional sales management, where I take over the sales management of a company. And this guy found my email address for a company that I'm currently managing, and unsolicited sent me his resume. And in my head, I said, wow, I like that. This person's being proactive. We don't have an ad out or anything like that, but he's proactive. And the truth is, I am looking for salespeople at this place. And then I didn't respond to him. And he called me this morning out of nowhere, which again, I was like, wow, this guy's really interesting. Then I started talking to him for a few minutes, and it turned out he not only didn't have the requisite experience, but he's also on the West Coast, and we're not hiring anybody on the West Coast right now. We're an East Coast company. Here's why I'm telling you this. He argued with me about why I should give him a chance instead of having a good conversation. And if you're going to argue with a prospect, that's not somebody I'm going to hire. So if you're arguing with me just to get an interview, I think you're also going to argue with my prospects, and that doesn't work. What you want to do is be able to handle objections reasonably and clearly through conversation, but arguing with me is never going to work. So kind of just keep that in mind. The salesperson never, ever wins an argument. Your prospect has the money, has the time. They can either give it to you or not, but arguing won't work. And with that, I am going to introduce today's very patient guest. Her superpower, and she does have superpowers, is teaching people to stop hiding out and start spreading out and standing out on LinkedIn. And by the way, I consider LinkedIn to be the salesperson's best friend. Her clients generate a minimum of 2 to 10 appointments a week, 2 to 10 appointments a week, without being salesy, without being sleazy, and only 30 minutes a day or less on LinkedIn. She's a LinkedIn expert. She's an author. She's a speaker and a coach. Please welcome today's guest, Rhonda Sher. Good morning, Rhonda.
Good morning, Jeff. Hopefully the technology gods will be with us today, right?
Fingers crossed. I always say, I love technology as long as it works. Which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Anyways, Rhonda, before I go into the 1,000,001 questions I have for you, because I love LinkedIn and I'm always looking to be better at it, and you are an expert, can you maybe give us the 1 to 2 minute version of your background before you became a LinkedIn expert?
Well, actually, I'm probably like a cat. I had 9 lives, but I started out as a paralegal. Did that for a long time, worked in the corporate world. And then I went on and I actually sold insurance. And how I was pretty successful selling insurance was actually using LinkedIn. I think I'm a networker on steroids. And in 2009, when LinkedIn really started to take off, I realized that everything I'd been doing as a paralegal was very similar to using LinkedIn. I was networking, and it just brought me this entire world online. And it was just as natural to me as breathing. And so I wrote a book on it in 2009 called The ABCs of LinkedIn, Get LinkedIn and Get Left Out. And the rest is pretty much history. I've just been working with clients, teaching, training. But the best part of the story is that, everybody always asks me, Jeff, can you make money with LinkedIn, right? And the truth is that I married my husband twice, and I used LinkedIn to retire him from his corporate job in 2020.
I was going to ask you about that, because that's not a typical love story. What happened? I mean, you married the same guy twice, and you used LinkedIn to help him retire. What did that experience teach you about relationships and resilience and the power of LinkedIn?
Well, the funny story is when we got married, we were pretty young. And he said to me when we first got married, I have one request. I'm like, okay, what's that? He said, please don't make more money than me. Now, we have 2 daughters, and if anybody ever said that to them, I would tell them to run, not walk, right? And the marriage lasted 28 years, and we had a very amicable divorce. But at the time that we divorced, my mom had just passed away. We short sailed a house. Nobody was hiring speakers. It was just, that door opened. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to be one of those supermarket greeters. But I knew that I had a superpower, and that superpower was using LinkedIn. So I went out, got my life insurance license, used LinkedIn to generate $6,000 in my first 6 weeks. By the end of that year, I generated over 6 figures, a solid 6-figure income. And I realized 2 things, Jeff. 1, I didn't love selling life insurance. And 2, I had a system that anybody else could use. So fast forward to a little over 10 years ago, when my husband and I remarried, he said, I have one request. I go, okay, what's that? He goes, please make more money than me. He wanted to retire. And because of the pandemic and the fact that I really knew what I was doing with LinkedIn, he retired in October of 2020. And I've just been doing this ever since. And he helps me in the back office. And he's the happiest retired guy you'd ever see. But, he left the corporate world, and I get to do what I love to do, which is show people how to use LinkedIn.
What a great story. That's brilliant. And by the way, if there happen to be any women watching right now who find overweight, balding Jewish guys attractive, and you make more money than me, I'm single and available. I would love to meet a woman and be involved with a woman who's making more money than me. And if she can retire me, even better. Oh man, you're like my perfect woman. I can't believe that your husband actually said, look, I get it. A long time ago, it wasn't cool or really socially accepted for your wife to make more money than you. In men's mind, It made them less than. I got none of that. I bow to women. You are more powerful. You're more mentally strong. And if you're making more money than me, God bless you. I'm interested. Jeff Goldberg, you can find me on LinkedIn. But let's move on. I believe that dogs are the best thing on the planet. Like, no kidding. There's nothing I think that's better on this earth than dogs. I love my dog desperately. I love all dogs. And you say that dogs don't lie, and neither do LinkedIn profiles. What do you mean by that?
Well, here's the thing, Jeff, right? Anybody that is going to check you out, where are they going to go? They're going to go to Google, right? The old joke is, where's the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of Google. Nobody goes there. So the thing is, they're going to go to Google, and they're going to learn who you are. And all those beautiful single women now that know that you're on the market, when they Google you, Jeff Goldberg, they're going to find your LinkedIn profile, and they're going to check you out. And the reality is that that's where you don't really lie, because people looking for a job for it. Absolutely. But in our world, the sales world, people look at LinkedIn because they want to know who you are. They want to know where you've worked before. Where do you volunteer? What have other people said about you, right? What have you said about other people? Because one of the secrets in LinkedIn is look at the recommendations that you wrote for other people, and it'll tell me what your values are, right? If you wrote a recommendation for our mutual friend Joe, for example, right? It would tell me what your values are, because you're going to speak to your values in that. And so when I say LinkedIn doesn't lie, right? Most people may make it a little bit more ornate. They may stretch the truth a little bit, but the bottom line is that what they're putting there is true. These are the places that they've worked. This is the school that they went to. These are the skills that they have. And you have an opportunity with recommendations to actually, look at the person who gave it. It's not like it's on a website and it says, oh yeah, Rhonda S. I could be anybody, right? But if you click and see that I wrote you a recommendation, which I'm going to do after this podcast, people can actually click and see it. So that's what I mean by that. It really is the biggest social business platform where everybody still goes. Even in this world of AI, they're still checking you out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Since you brought up recommendations, I was told years ago by a marketing expert that the goal is get to 50, because once you get to 50, things really start happening. But my question is not really about that. There's recommendations and there's endorsements. My personal feeling on endorsements is I don't care how many endorsements you've got. And here's the reason. People endorse me all day long for stuff who've never met me. And I know why they're doing it, because they think if they endorse me, I'm going to endorse them back, which I'm not. But because so many people who have no idea who I am, other than I'm a picture on LinkedIn with a couple of followers, I put no stock in endorsements, but a recommendation, I absolutely read those, because you have to look, nobody's going to post bad recommendations about themselves, just like nobody's going to give out bad references. But like you said, if you kind of read between the lines, you can kind of see what somebody's trying to say about someone. What's your feeling on recommendations versus endorsements, and what should we do? What should we do to get more recommendations?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think the most important thing that's often overlooked with recommendation is, when were they written? I mean, think about it, Jeff. What were you doing 5 years ago versus today? Maybe you were doing the same thing, but doing it a little bit differently. So you want to look at the dates on the recommendations. I look at some profiles and I see 2009. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the other thing too is also, is there a balance? Have you ever looked at a LinkedIn profile and you see, wow, they've received, like 30, 50, 100 recommendations. How many have you given? Oh, none. Well, what does that tell you? They're either lazy or they're not a giver, right?
Or selfish, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I always have my expression in life is, when people show you who they are, believe them. That's really the truth. And so I look at recommendations, and I will actually tell you that when I'm going to invest in somebody, maybe they have a high ticket program, or there's something that I want to do, I will go to the recommendations that somebody has written for them, click over to their profile, connect with them, and send them a message and say, hey, I'm thinking of hiring Jeff Goldberg. I see that you gave him a raving recommendation. I'd love to know what you loved about him. And, this is what I do. If you possibly could give me 5 minutes and tell me whether you recommend if he would be a good fit for me. And what's really interesting is, some people forget they wrote recommendations, and they'll say, there's a recommendation for him on my file, on my profile. And then they basically say, no, you know what? Maybe that was true at that moment, but it's not true today. So they're also a really good way to get a feel for what is happening in the present moment, right? And also now with AI, a lot of the recommendations really not being written in your own voice. They're really being written by using an AI tool to say, okay, write this recommendation.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. If I'm writing a recommendation, it's going to be in my words. And I like AI, don't get me wrong. We can talk about that. But for a recommendation, it needs to be in my words. And I find something that you said was perfect. One of the easiest ways to get recommendations is to give them. Because if you give me a recommendation, especially if it's unsolicited, obviously we can click on the 3 dots or the more, right, and say, would you please recommend me? But when I give you a recommendation and you didn't see it coming, the tendency for most people is to say, oh, that was so nice of Rhonda, I'm going to give her a recommendation too. So giving recommendations is often a great way to get recommendations. I think it's useful to kind of define the overall thing we're talking about, social selling. LinkedIn is used for social selling. And I think that's a term that I'm not sure that everybody understands it. So how do you, as an expert, define social selling for us? What is it? Can everybody do it? And why should we be doing it?
Well, I don't even think of it as social selling, to be really honest with you. What I think about it is relationships, right? It's the relationships that really lead to the revenue. So you could be on the platform and maybe you don't have thousands of connections, but the connections that you do have are the right ones. And think of it like all of these people are in your network, they're in your world. But if you really want to make the most of it, reach out to them. Pick 3 people every day that are in your first level and send them a video message, not necessarily a text message, but send them an email. And it might be like, hey, Jeff, we've been connected since 2018 and never had a conversation. I'd love to hear what you're up to these days. I'm not in the practice of collecting connections. I'm in the process of actually getting to know them. I don't know if there's somebody in my world that I can introduce you to. I don't know if there's a resource that I have. But if it makes sense, let's jump on a call. And what I put is a PS, right? So whether it's a video or whether it's a text or it's an email, I'll say, and I promise I'm going to keep this call in the no sale zone, because I don't want you to think that I'm soliciting you or trying to sell you. I just want to get to know you. The social selling is converting those relationships to revenue, because you're a sales trainer. You know this better than anybody. Who do people work with? The like, know, and trust factor. Well, if you don't know me, you're not going to refer me. If you don't trust me, you're not going to refer me, right? And if I'm just a number of one of your connections, you don't know me. You might like my posts, but you don't know me. So when it is social selling, it's just not something that you just sit and I always say, you're in long-term parking on LinkedIn or you're in the LinkedIn Witness Protection Program. No, if you're on the platform, go use it. Go get to know these people. What's the worst they can say? The worst they could say is, you know what? I don't have time to have a conversation. Okay, right. When my daughter was really young, I said, Stephanie, do you know what the word no means? And she goes, yeah, Mom, that's the word on backwards. So what? There you go.
Yeah. I wonder truly how many people actually know what LinkedIn was originally devised for. Because I belong to a networking group for 20 years. I also, about a half a year, got my email from LinkedIn saying, congratulations on your 20-year anniversary. And LinkedIn was originally designed to be networking online. It's now used for many things, but I'm not really sure how many people know that. I think they just see it as a place to read posts and find out what's going on and try to sell you something. And what about people who are using content marketing to attract an audience, but who get very little engagement or no engagement on their posts? What are they doing wrong? And what can they do to change that?
That's my favorite question, Jeff. And
good.
what they're really doing wrong is they may be putting out all kinds of content, but you know what they're not doing? They're not commenting on other people's content, right? The best way to get noticed on LinkedIn is to write thoughtful comments and even take it one step further. And this is a little counterintuitive, but it actually works. So you go and look at the content of the person who, you want to notice you, right? They, potentially they could be your referral partner, your prospect, whatever. But look at the people that are commenting on their stuff and you follow those breadcrumbs and start commenting on that person, because less than 2% of people are commenting. So if you do 10 comments a day and then you're posting yourself, and the thing about the posting is, number one, you have to vary the type of post that you do, right? But what you really want is to get their eyeballs immediately. You would get.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little, Rhonda.
Oh, we lost each other for a second.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Your face is frozen, but now I can hear you.
Oh, it got lost.
It'll catch up.
Okay, so the secret is really, so the secret to it really is, before you even post, put any content out there, go out and at least comment on 5 to 10 people thoughtfully, 12 to 32 words.
So that brings me to another question, which I had prepared for you. So I'm glad you brought that up. What's your take on using tools that use AI to write your posts for you? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I mean, we both know people who offer stuff like that, who we love and respect. What's your take? Is it better to write in your own words? Is it better to use AI and then fix it? Or just what's your take on that?
I think here's the truth, okay? If you know how to prompt, and that's really important because AI is really all about the prompting. I think it's a combination of both. AI can be a great time saver in a lot of ways, but it needs to know your voice. It absolutely has to know your voice. If it looks like a canned AI, it's got M dashes, it sounds like everybody else. No, it's not what you want. However, I do believe that AI has its place, and there are tools far beyond ChatGPT, like Stanley, which is one of my favorites, and Orchestrate, which is another one of my favorites, that really capture who you are, get your message. But again, all of it has to come from you and the right prompt. So I think it's just a marriage, finding the right combination. Gotcha.
Yeah, I never use AI to write posts. My comments, because I'm a good writer and I can do it very quickly. It doesn't take me a heck of a lot of time. I do when I write email cadences and things like that. But what you said is 100% on target. I never take what AI spits out without editing it myself. And over time, I do use ChatGPT, and it has learned my voice pretty darn well. It's a little scary how well it knows me, but I read everything, I edit everything, because I'm not looking to put out ChatGPT's version of me. I want to make sure it's the real me. So I'm a big fan of saving the time, but with comments, it's like it's too quick for me. I just don't need it.
Yeah, I don't use it for comments. I don't use it for comments. And I'll just interject one little thing, which has worked for me and some of my clients. And that is when you're commenting, put your personality in there. So when I see somebody that's giving directions, right, or they're giving suggestions, I'll put a little humor in it and I'll say, wow, this is the perfect recipe. But what happens when you're somebody like me that has a sign that said the kitchen came with the house? I'm not very good in that department, right? Or, if it's very complicated, I'll say, wow, this sounds amazing. But you know what? I get lost in a 2-car garage. I can't find this. So it stands out from the other comments because what I'm really doing is putting my personality in, right? But I'm also adding to it because the idea is that when you're putting that comment out there, Jeff, your goal, and I hope people get the premium, not necessarily Sales Navigator, that has its place, but with premium, at least you know who is looking at you. What if there's that amazing woman that's thinking, oh my God, this is the guy I want to meet, and you never knew she peeked at your profile?
Yeah. And here's how much money I make, Jeff, so that you can know that I make more than you. That's that's the part I'm going to need. By the way, Dr. Dipto says he's received over 50 recommendations globally so far. And Rick says, Rhonda is the bomb. Yes, she is, Rick. She absolutely is. By the way, you brought up time. How much time do you think the typical salesperson needs to invest on a daily basis to get the most out of their LinkedIn activities? And what should they focus that time? Is it only commenting on other people's? How important is it to post yourself? What should we be doing to take the best advantage and how much time?
So plan out your posts because LinkedIn gives you the ability to schedule them right on there, right? Post a minimum of 3 times a week, do different formats of it. Really learn
wait. You can schedule in LinkedIn?
Yeah. The little clock right there where the post is, and you can schedule your whole week right there on LinkedIn. You don't have to use another one of these outside.
I'm so glad I'm talking to you. I use Simplified, which allows me to do that. I didn't realize I could do it right on LinkedIn. That's great.
On LinkedIn. Do it right on LinkedIn. The other thing that you want to do is have that list of people who you want to be commenting on, right? So in the morning, it's like 30 minutes, right? You know who those people are. You're going to go to their profiles. You're going to look at their posts, and you're going to write a really thoughtful comment. That doesn't take a long time. One of the things that I do every single day, and I do it twice a day, is I look at who looked at my profile. Why? Because if somebody is a first level connection and they looked at my profile, but they didn't send me a message, I'm curious. So I'll send them a video and I'll go, hey, Jeff, oh my God, we've been connected since 2018. Thanks so much for viewing my profile. It's been a minute. Let's catch up. I have something really cool that I'm working on. I want to hear what you're up to. I'm going to drop a link to my calendar. Let's catch up, right? And if you put a little PS on there, when you put your Calendly link, it catches people's eyes. So what should you do? You want to make sure that you look at who looks at your profile. Make sure you are posting. Make sure you are commenting. And I loved it when we talked about recommendations. When somebody sends an unexpected recommendation, it's like getting out of the car, looking on the ground and going, oh my God, there's a $20 bill. Like, that's amazing, right? Yeah. And so what that does is when they get that, what are they going to do? They're going to look at your profile. They're going to probably thank you, right? And here's a little secret about recommendations. When you request one, they usually fall in the obsess, right? Nobody can find it. But when you're sending that request up on the top bar where you're sending it, you can grab that URL and then put that in an email and say, hey, Jeff, just want to let you know, I sent you a request for a LinkedIn recommendation. So you don't have to go chasing all over to find it. Just click here and have your LinkedIn open. So they don't have to go looking all over. Well, where's that request for Rhonda sent? Click, and then it opens directly to where I asked you for the request. And if you're inclined, you can say, hey, Jeff, I know you're super busy. I took the liberty of writing something for you. Feel free to toss it in the trash, use it, or modify it. But I just wanted to make it easy for you. Either way, I appreciate you and I appreciate the recommendation. Let me know how I can support you. Yeah.
Awesome. Just awesome. I'm so glad you said that. I had no idea that you could schedule your post on LinkedIn because I'm using something different. And here's a question. You talked about somebody who visits you, takes a look at your profile. it sounds like you're suggesting you would not say, hey, I'm just curious, what made you look at my profile?
If they're a first level connection, I usually don't say that because we've already been connected. If they're a second level connection, number one, it tells you when they looked, right? So once in a while, believe it or not, and I learned this from Joe Applebaum, right? We both do a show. I pick up the phone and I'll go, hey, this is Rhonda Sher. I noticed you just looked at my profile. We're not connected, but I was so flattered that you looked at it that I wanted to hear more about what you do. They actually will pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Funniest story. I had somebody that did that once and they picked up the phone and they said, I'm so embarrassed. I thought you were a different Rhonda. And I said, hey, no worries. And he goes, well, since you called me, let me go look at your profile. And he goes, I don't believe in accidents. It's so funny because I've been looking for somebody that does exactly what you do. Can we set up a call? I think I need to hire you.
Perfect.
Like, oh my gosh.
Gotta love that.
But the second levels, I do say, I noticed you viewed my profile, and then I tell them what I find interesting about theirs. So I want them to know why I'm reaching out. I said, oh, I saw you, I did a drive-by of my profile. Wow, you're from Boston too? Red Sox fan? And I go, so I just do something that makes that connection.
Creating that relationship. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I get more clients that way, and my clients get more clients that way, just from that one little, and again, 30 minutes a day. And then at the end of the day, do the same thing.
Awesome tip. And Rick made a good point. If you schedule a post, just make sure that you're there to interact with commenters when they engage with your post. I was asked just yesterday by somebody, Wednesday, how much time do I spend on LinkedIn? Because I get about 30% of my business from LinkedIn, and it's not from me reaching out to people saying, want to buy some sales coaching. And I said, 20 to 30 minutes a day. And that includes me. I administer a group called B2B Sales Connections with about 60,000 members. So there's about 10 minutes there and about 20 minutes on my personal stuff. Yeah. The other thing that I love, and Rick also pointed out, said Rhonda gets lots of conversation because she preempts it with her DM saying it's a no sales zone call. And I want to ask you about that, because one of the things I find mind-blowingly annoying is pitch slapping. You accept a connection request from somebody who you don't know for whatever reason you accept it. Immediately, you get a DM saying, I'd love to tell you how I help coaches like you get 1 million appointments with no obligation, and it costs nothing and it takes no time. Or they'll ask a question that's clearly designed to start a sales conversation like, what are you working on right now that has you excited? I don't talk to strangers like that personally. So why do people do that? Does it ever work? I mean, to me, in my mind, it's got to be working sometime. It's just the law of numbers. If you send out 1 million of these, maybe some people are going to respond. But my gut says it doesn't work well. It certainly doesn't work with me. So why do people do it? Does it work? Should we be doing it? And how should we handle it when somebody pitch slaps us?
Well, there's 2 ways that you can do it. And I get the same thing, and I get really annoyed. And then I realize, you know what? One of my favorite books is Mel Robbins, right? The Let Them Theory. So I just go, okay, just let them. This isn't about me. I'm one of how many that they're sending this to, right? So I completely ignore it. Or, because I know they're using some kind of an automation that's just doing this sequence. And the sequence stops as soon as you respond. So even if you just put a no or whatever, it stops the sequence because it's automation. But what I do some of the time, and it really works, is I will write back and say, curious, does this work for you? Are you looking for a better way to leverage LinkedIn to get more appointments instead of sending these continual DMs? If you're interested, love to share my system with you. And all of a sudden, they just disappear from the planet.
I do the same thing, Rhonda. When somebody DMs me trying to sell me something, I go, hey, I'm a sales coach. How much sales coaching would you like to buy today? And funny, they never respond. It disappears after that. So I'm with you. You've helped a lot of people. Over 1,000 professionals generate 2 to 10 qualified appointments a day. By the way, let me qualify this by saying that every coaching client that comes to me, every corporate client that I talk to, every non-professional or accidental seller that I speak to, their number one challenge is not necessarily that they don't know how to sell, although that's often the case too. The number one challenge almost every seller has is they simply are not speaking to enough qualified prospects. And you're helping people get 2 to 10 qualified appointments per week using LinkedIn. Most people are lucky if they get any response on a LinkedIn outreach at all. So what's the difference between the people who turn LinkedIn into a client generation machine and those who are just collecting connections? I've got 20,000 connections. Who cares? I'm not saying that's me, but people brag. They've got so many. What is it? They're lions. LinkedIn open network. I've got billions of connections. What's it doing for you? So tell me about that. What's the difference between those people and the people who just
think of it this way. Think of it this way, Jim. Jeff, think of it this way. How many people in January join a gym? Like everybody, right? Because you want to lose weight. By February 1st, how many people are actually showing up? Probably 10%, right? So if you think about LinkedIn the same way, the people that are really on there to create real relationships, to actually get to know these people, those are the ones that are going to be successful, right? Those are the ones that really care about people. It's a relationship network. It's not going in that direction at the moment. Right now, AI is just making it so easy for people to automate everything and send it all out that we've lost that human connection. But the reality is that when somebody reaches out to you and they see you, they actually see you, we have a conversation and it isn't about me, it's about you. Guess what? Now things really start to happen on that platform.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason I created my program, Know Your Prospect, where you could learn to decode a face and create instant rapport. I have a whole program where, great, you have an appointment, then what happens? Well, okay, they may need a sales trainer because they don't know how to handle objections like you teach them. They don't know how to close a sale. But the first thing they have to know how to do is create rapport. They have to understand and see that person. So I really think it's a relationship network. If you're looking to use it the way you're using it, the way I'm using it, the way my clients use it, right? You have to reach out to people and say, I want to get to know you. What is it that I can do for you? And that's always the first question, as opposed to, here, let me sell you my stuff. Like, really? Because I have some great swampland in Florida I can sell you,
Rhonda, I can tell you, when I network with people, whether on LinkedIn or anywhere else, my first question is always, what can I do for you? What would most help you? Because I come from generosity, and I'm not doing that as a technique. I am a generous person. I truly do want to help. And I also believe that what goes around comes around, that when you do good, you get good. I believe in the law of reciprocity. If I do something nice for you, you're probably going to want to tend to do something nice for me. And there's something else about you that I want to get to, because there's something that makes you different from almost every other LinkedIn trainer, maybe every other LinkedIn trainer, as far as I can tell. And I'm going to get to that in a second, facial decoding. But before we get to that, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make on their LinkedIn? By the way, before I get to that, what's the name of the program again that you offer?
Oh, it's called Know Your Prospect.
Know Your Prospect. Perfect. Okay. And I'm assuming you have a website that people can look at. We'll share your contact information in a little bit before we leave. But so what are the biggest mistakes? Because I often, when I work with salespeople, I say, let's take a look at your LinkedIn profile and let me give you some tips. And I am not a LinkedIn expert. If you're a 10, I'm a 2, but I do know a few things. So in your professional opinion, what are some of the mistakes that people make and how can they fix them?
Well, the first one, we're all visual people, right? So the first thing is, what does your banner look like? Do you have one? Does it tell people, is it clear? Because it just needs to have that one clear message, right? I'm in the process of rebranding everything of mine. I was like the shoemaker's kid, right? I do this for everybody. And then I look at mine and I'm like, oh my God, I've been on 100 podcasts. Does it say that anywhere? All these places, right? The second thing, and this is really, really important, is your headline, okay? Your headline needs to tell people who you serve and what you deliver and what makes you different, right? Don't let LinkedIn just default to sales trainer, okay?
Or account executive.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then the other thing that I find really interesting in terms of mistakes are the contact information. So you put all this effort into having a profile, and guess what? Either the website that you have isn't the one you currently use, or it leads me to a site that's X-rated. You can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen.
Really?
And then there's no email and no phone number. So what am I supposed to do to get to you? Like, why are you here if I can't reach you? Even if you have a Google phone number that, basically screens for you, at least you appear accessible, and you can decide if you're going to pick that call up or if it's a sales pitch, right?
It blows my mind, Ron. It blows my mind when I'm actually on somebody's Facebook, LinkedIn profile, and I want to get in touch. I want to call them, and their contact information isn't there. My contact, you can click on that contact button. All my contact information is there. Plus, in my about section, at the very top is my phone number, my email address, and my website. I want to make it easy for people to reach me, not difficult. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And a cool little hack you might not, that might save you some space, is instead of using those first 2 or 3 lines, Jeff, to put your contact information in the about section, because remember, those first 2 or 3 lines are really designed to get someone to click the see more button so they keep reading your entire about section. You can actually put your contact information in the education section. So it shows up where your education, because nobody really cares where you went to school. You're not looking for a job. But I sure want to know your phone number, your email. So let's put that there instead of the school that you went to, right? Prime real estate. So then when you start the about section, what you could put there is, I don't know how many thousands of people you've trained, but it could say over 5,000 people have experienced my sales training and are now whatever the result is that you do. Well, immediately I know I'm in the right place. You're somebody who's already trained people and you're telling me what the results are. I want to keep reading, right? And at the end, put a call to action. I don't care what your keywords are. I want to know if you are somebody who's losing sales, not closing, can't figure out how to deal with objections. Click here, go here, whatever, because people move at the speed of direction. So that's what I would suggest. And then the last thing that I would say, we already talked about recommendations, but it's that featured section, right? Even though you can put up to 17 things there, put 3 things that you want people to do. Do you want them to book a call with you? If you're a speaker, put a testimonial reel and a little bit of you speaking, because you have that much time for them to catch you, right? One of the things I do, which is a little bit unique as well, is I have a strategic partner who interviews you. Can you imagine? You have a 15-minute interview in a professional virtual studio, and you're in charge of the questions. And then you could take those and use those for your posts. You can literally just take the excerpts, and now you have these snippets.
Great.
But when somebody sees it, now, all those questions that are in your prospect's mind or your referral partner's mind are being answered right there.
Love that. And by the way, even though I'm not an expert, everything you say, I'm going, yes, yes, yes. I know the banner. When I see the plain banner that LinkedIn has, I'm like, no effort whatsoever. If people don't have a profile picture, for me, it's just like on a dating site. If you don't have a profile picture, something's up, and I don't trust you. And most salespeople, they research a prospect's job title and the company, recent posts. It could be their education, although I've never looked at education. Could be their work experience. That's a possibility. But you say that there's amazingly valuable information sitting right in front of them, and that's the profile photo itself. What can a face tell us that a biography never will? And what is facial decoding? I love the sound of that. And I actually saw when you were, on Joe's LinkedIn Summit. And that's why I reached out. I said, oh my God, this is brilliant. And I was wondering, is she going to say something about my face and what it tells her? So go ahead. It's your show. Go ahead.
Well, so here's the thing. Okay. It's really based in science. If you think about how attorneys choose jurors, right? The only thing they can't, yes, they can look at micro movements, but really what they're looking at is their face, right? So when you look at somebody's facial features, the facial features tell you, how does somebody process information? Is this person a team player? Is this person somebody that finishes what they start? Are they a risk taker? How do they deal with money? So eyebrows are like one of the biggest things, right? If you were to see somebody, for example, and their eyebrows were very thick in the beginning and then they kind of thinned out, you could barely see them. That tells you that all of the juice for them is at the beginning. Doesn't say they're going to not finish what they're starting, but you know what? They probably have the shiny object syndrome, right? Because they're just not going to finish everything. If you see somebody like if I look at you, Jeff, okay, and I'm just looking at your nose, what I know about you just from looking at your nose is If somebody tried to micromanage you, stand over you and tell you what to do, you probably would rather have a root canal without Novocaine than have them do that. Would that be true?
On target. Now, how does my nose tell you that? Because I've got a big Jewish
Because
nose?
of the ridge, because of the ridge. Then I look and I go, oh, look, Jeff has super high ears. If I took my hand from here to here, right, you have really high ears. People with high ears have fast brains. So if I talk like this, I would put you to sleep, right?
Yes.
How important is that in terms of creating that instant rapport? And people just want to be seen and heard. That's our natural ability. So if we use facial decoding to see somebody the way they see themselves, and they feel seen and they feel heard, the rest is magic, right? Then the conversation just flows.
Now, how do you, well, first of all, let me say this. Nobody's ever said to me, you've got high ears, Jeff. I've often been asked, are you high? But nobody ever said high ears. But how do you learn to do that? I mean, I've studied some body language and I'm not an expert in that, just like I'm not an expert in LinkedIn, but facial decoding, I never even heard of that. Where do you go to study something like that? Because it sounds incredibly useful.
I started studying this in 2017, and the gentleman that taught me this was actually an attorney, and he used this to study jurors. And so I went back 3 times, and then I've gone to several other people. And what I really found was that I was fascinated with this, because no matter what networking you do, it's always about face to face, right? So how do you create rapport with somebody? You see them as you see themselves. So I created a course, self-directed. But then I thought, you know what? How many books do you have on your shelf, Jeff? And I'm looking at all those books, okay?
Oh, there's 2 floor-to-ceiling bookshelves in other places here. I'm filled with books.
Right. But the majority of people, right, don't read the entire book. They just don't. They may listen to it on Audible, but they don't read the entire book. So when I created a course, which teaches you all of the stuff that I'm just talking about, right? Most people aren't going to go through it because we're just not wired that way. So I thought, okay, I'm going to create an app that teaches, that basically just makes it easy. So if I was going to go, for example, to France, right? I don't remember my high school French at all. Now, am I going to go take an in-depth course on French, or am I going to use my little phone and I'm just going to say, okay, tell this waiter this is what I want, and the phone's going to translate it for me? It's the easy way. Well, what if you could upload a photo and tell the app, I want this for sales, because you can, with the app, you can say it's for sales, it's for creating rapport, or to understand yourself. And it will go through and give you a short report, and then it will give you a detailed report outlining what each feature means. So it depends on whether you're somebody that just wants the big picture, you're a high D, just give me the bottom line, or you want all the details, right? And then, here's the really fun part, you can talk to it, and I can say, what should I avoid when making my presentation to Jeff or Rick or Joe? And it will tell me, right? He needs time to process. Don't be pushy. And you can have a dialogue with the app. So I created it because I realized there was something missing. And that's the human element in all of this, using science. You know, just like you talked about, oh my gosh, I get so upset when I see message after message that's just a string, you know. Okay, finally, if you're not interested, just click no, you know, like, and he just keeps telling you, you don't even know who I am. Well, if I'm interested in you and I see you the way you see yourself, because I'm speaking fast, because I know you have a fast brain. I know when I look at you that you look at everything straight on. You're not Pollyanna. And you're not, Debbie, you're not the doomsday person, right? You just look at things straight on. You're real good with the details when you need to be. Like, you don't miss much, right? That's important to know. Is that true?
It's all true so far. Yeah, you got me. I'm curious. What you said, something about money. What does my face tell you about how I handle money?
So that's an interesting thing. Okay, the money is all in your nose. Interestingly enough. Okay, so let's talk about that.
I have a big one.
So for you, money is just energy. It flows in, it flows out. You don't really sweat the pennies. Is that true?
100%.
Good thing to know, isn't it?
Often to my detriment, but yes.
Good thing to know. So whether you like President Trump or don't like President Trump, okay, if you look at his face and you look at his nose and you look at, right here, his face says one thing, my way or the highway. That's what it says. Pretty accurate, right? You don't have
I'd say so,
you can
yeah.
like them or not like them. I'm not going to get into a political discussion one way or the other.
You and
But
I.
but what I know, and I will tell you, we talked about I married the same guy twice, right? Why is my second marriage so much better than my first marriage? Because when I look at my husband's face and I understand it now, you know what? I go, that's who he is. He's the person who is organized and has a place for everything and is always early and is always being of service. And before, I didn't really get that about him, right? And so I've known him since I was 15, but now knowing that, that's who he is. So I can accept that. And as we change our faces, by the way, because our faces do change over the years, our personality changes with it, which is a very cool thing.
Well, from your description of your husband, he sounds like my kind of guy.
He's taken.
He sounds like me.
Yeah. When you look at the dictionary, you'll see a picture of you and a picture of him under the word mensch. There you go.
Not sure about that, but thank you for that one. So you're a LinkedIn expert and you're combining facial decoding with social selling. Why does that work so well together?
Because it's all about relationships, right? And the reality is that the social selling can get you the appointments, right? It's the platform where you can learn about somebody. And today, really today more than ever, more and more people are having their profiles written by AI. Well, guess what? AI doesn't know you. It's never going to hug you. It's never going to know. It can be your brain. Yes, you can do all that, but it's never really going to know you. It's only going to know what you're telling it. And you're only going to tell it the good stuff, right?
Of course.
So the facial decoding is really that person to person. And I remember many years ago, I was doing presentations. I was working with a lot of real estate agents in showing them how to use LinkedIn because they were working with the mortgage people. So I was going into an office one day to do a presentation, and there was I hate to use the word elderly because I'm getting close to elderly, right? But there was a woman there, and I had to wait because they weren't ready for me to do the presentation. And I said to her, I said, wow, they must love you here. You must do like all the proofreading and keep this office together. And she looks at me and she goes, how do you know that? I said, I know that you're somebody that has true grit. I said, you are the glue of this office, because I could see it all on her face. And she started to cry. She really started to cry. And she told me, she said, I was widowed last year and I felt like I had no purpose in my life at all. And one of my nephews told me that they were looking for somebody, and this has changed my entire life. And I saw that in her face, and because she was somebody who was such a great perfectionist, she easily could catch everything. She was proofreading. This was long before AI. So what it really is, Jeff, is a way to connect with people and see them as they see themselves.
Awesome.
And nobody does that anymore on LinkedIn. It's all transactional. But at the end of the day, you're engaged. I know if people work with you, Jeff, they get to know you and love you because you're helping them to make more sales. And it's not about the money. It's like, what are you going to do with that money? Right? The money doesn't do it. It's
never about the money.
Nobody
comes to work for more green piece of paper.
Yeah. The money. So what does more money do? Well, for me, more money gives me more trips with my amazing husband. It gives me more time to go see my daughters, to, make a difference in the world, to spend time raising money for Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is a big, charity. My daughter works for Crohn's and Colitis, and to make awareness, right? That's what the money frees me to do. It's not the money. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make me sleep better.
Let your husband stay retired.
Yeah, exactly. To retire my husband, because he really, really had been a big corporate guy. He was like working for the second largest envelope company in the country. It's the only person I know that still gets excited when an envelope comes in the mail. And, he was like done, he was 250 people reported to him. He was like over it. He wanted his life and he earned it. And because of LinkedIn and because I have such passion for this and for people, it worked out beautifully. He goes to the gym and gets swimming lessons like 3 times a week, and I get to have relationships with people, which is so much fun, and create cool apps like the one that I'm launching in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
So one of our viewers has asked the question that I was about to ask, which is, what the heck is the name of this app? Because I think Phenomenal Communications LLC and I both want it.
So here's what I will do. It's not launched quite yet. Okay, the website isn't ready. However, if anybody wants to have me run their face through the app, all they need to do is send me their photo and email it to Rhonda@theshermethod.com, and I will send them the report on their app. How's that? Is that cool or not?
And then will you also let them know when the app is launched?
It'll launch in about 2 weeks. I'm just putting all the final touches, got to do all the legal stuff, dot the I's, cross the T's. And then there's a second one, which you might like, Jeff, is actually the dating decoder. So you can put 2 photos in there and see how well you'll get along.
Thank you, but no, the truth is I don't do a heck of a lot of dating. I'm pretty much past that. It would have to be a very, very, very right situation for me. You know, when I said wealthy, so make more money so that I can retire, that certainly is one. But I'm looking for a wealthy woman with one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
You should be doing stand-up comedy. That's great.
I am a stand-up comedian.
I love that. That's on my bucket list.
Yes, because I don't get enough attention during the week when I'm training people. Evenings and weekends, I got to be out making people laugh. But it's more fun than humans could possibly have. So do you have to be trained to? So let's say it's me. I've never been trained on facial recognition or decoding. So I don't know you, and you've agreed to have an appointment with me because you're interested in coaching or you want to join my sales confidence lab or something like that. How would I, somebody who doesn't have the skills and knowledge that you have, use your profile photo to help me learn how to speak with you in a way that's going to be right for you?
So the first thing that you learn, and the course itself would teach you this, but the first thing you learn is how to read your own face, okay? Because here's the thing, once you learn to read your own face, you can't unsee it, you know, right? You really do know. So for example, I'm always like when you look, I have large eyelids, right? You know, right here, I have they call them Bambi eyelids, right? So every time I see somebody that has those kind of eyelids, what do I know about them? Well, number one, I know that they have a lot of people in their world, but the people they let in, very small number of people. So the people that are in your inside circle, very small. You also could look and see it from my eyelids, and I'm not very detail oriented, right? But I see the best in everybody. So here's how you learn it. You just like you learn anything, it's module by module. You don't have to know everything. Eyebrows are key, eyes, you know, the nose, the ears, all of that. So you just learn the basics, right? You don't have to, just like you're learning a new language. Do you have to learn everything? No, you need to ask, where's the train? Where's the bathroom? Where's the restaurant? Right? You know, just enough to get by, right?
¿Dónde está el cuarto de baño? We got to learn that one first.
Right, exactly. So that's what you really want to learn. And it becomes quite addicting because once you start looking, it's so much fun. I mean, you talk about the F factor. It is so much fun to start looking at people and then realizing, wow, it's so easy to start a conversation. And now that the world has gone back to meeting in person, right? It becomes so fun. I was just I don't know if you've ever heard of The Secret Knock with Greg Reed. If you don't know about this, it's so fun. 350 people. And it's like you have to get invited, right? 350 people in a room. I had more fun meeting people just by looking at them, looking at their face, and starting a conversation. And they don't know that I'm reading their face. I just said, wow, you must be really playful. And they had this huge smile on their face. And I'm like, how do you know that? And I'm like, oh, well, you have a dimple on the left side of your face because the left side of your face is your personal life and the right side is your business life, right? So what happens is all the barriers that we put down, because we all have walls, they come down. Why? Because you open the conversation with a compliment that's really genuine because you see them as they see themselves.
I think that's the key. What you just said, you see them. You really see them for who they are. And everybody wants to be seen. Actually, where did it go? Rick made a comment before. Everybody wants to be seen. I can't find it right now, Rick, but Rick said it. Yeah, absolutely.
And Rick is brilliant. I mean, he really is brilliant. And if you were to look at Rick's face, for example, right, you know that Rick is very sequential and logical. You know, that guy follows systems. And there it is. It's written in his face, right? You can even tell when somebody has a great sense of humor. There are all kinds of things you see on a face, right? And I would say to somebody, well, I bet you have a great sense of humor. And they go, well, everybody tells me that. I don't think I do, but everybody tells me that, and all of a sudden, what have I done? I see you. We're having a conversation.
Is that like a laugh line thing?
Yeah. But here's another thing that's kind of really interesting, right? Some people are more sensitive than others. Would you agree?
Sure.
You're in sales. Okay, let's take a look at Jay Leno, right? What's the one facial feature of Jay Leno that you remember that stands out?
The square jaw.
The long chin, right? So when somebody's chin is longer, number one, it shows that they have physical stamina. And a lot of times, if they do have that, and sometimes men have beards and they'll make the beard a little bit longer than their chin, it's really that they just want to be respected. And sometimes it's that they want to have the last word. Like with Jay Leno, he probably wants to have the last word. The guy's a comedian, right? Sure. So, and conversely, when you see somebody that has a very, very small chin, because really what you're looking for are the ones and the tens. Stuff in between you just ignore. But if you see somebody that has a very small chin, typically they're going to be a little more sensitive than others. So you want to cage your words around that.
Because I'm looking at my chin. Sorry. Okay.
you have a normal sized chin, Jeff. You're just, but there are people that you almost able to have no chin, right? Really, really small. Those people are going to be a little bit more sensitive, right?
Fascinating. That's fascinating.
Or even if, here's an example, this is great for you in sales, okay? Remember you said to me, well, how do you know about money, right? Well, right. What if the person that you saw had tiny little nostrils, right? Really, really small nostrils and a small chin. If you're selling them your sales program, guess what? They want to know all of the ROI. They want every detail because they are not going to spend money unless they know that they're going to get a return. So isn't that interesting to know versus somebody that, okay, you look at all of it in context, but again, you don't have to be a genius at this, right? And that's why I created the app, because the app really is going to fill in all the other blanks, just like if you learn the basics of a language. Donde está el baño? Yeah, okay, now I know enough, but I don't know everything, right? I can't say, how do you get to my room? I have to go back and use the tool for that, the interpreter.
Gotcha. So I've got about 8 million more questions and 2.5 minutes before we have to go. So, and I want to share your contact information. For anybody who wants better results on LinkedIn, like starting immediately, maybe wants to start noticing things in their profile photos that they've never paid attention to before. What are the 2 or 3 things that they can do immediately to improve their LinkedIn?
Number one, get a banner up there. Okay. Go to Canva, or PowerPoint and get a banner up there and make sure that when you look at it on your mobile, that it looks clean. It's not blocking the words, all of that. And that it really has a message. So when I land there, I want to know what the heck you do. Secondly, really take the time to do your headline. Very important because, again, we all look at things sequentially. Even when you look at the face, you look at it sequentially, right? First thing you see is the forehead. That's going to tell you how you process the information. Look at the LinkedIn profile. When you look at the headline, tells you what they do. And don't be afraid to brag. So if you've had 5,000 clients that you've worked with, I was just talking to somebody the other day and I said, how many reverse mortgages have you done? She said, more than I can count. I said, okay, let's put that in your headline, right? 2,000 happy clients with reverse mortgages. Well, who do I want to go to? The person that's done 2 or the person that's done 2,000? And then again, the contact information, you want to make sure that's there. And again, use that little hack, put it up front. And then finally in the about section, right? That's the big thing. Just make sure that when somebody lands there, because a confused mind makes no decisions. And then finally, don't ignore the recommendations, because what somebody else says is 1,000 times more powerful than what you've said. And every time somebody said you did a great job or whatever it was, ask them for some kind of a testimonial. Ask them for something to say, oh my God, it would mean the world to me. Would you mind if I just recorded that if they say it on a Zoom, right? Or get the LinkedIn recommendation, or just get them to write it and put it in your featured section. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you do it and that everything is current and it really is a reflection. So I would go to somebody that that trusts you, that's going to give you the honest truth and say, hey, look at this profile. Is this a good reflection of me? Does this really show you who I am and what I do? Or is there anything here that's confusing? Don't go to ChatGPT. They don't know you. I mean, think they do, but they don't. Go to somebody that you actually know and ask them for the honest truth. Like I say to my husband every day, hey, does this outfit make me look fat? Well, he's smart enough to know, not just what he says is, well, you have better outfits, right? Ooh. After 45 years, it's like, yeah, you have better outfits.
That was one of the questions that I hated most when I was married, Rhonda. Does this make me look fat? Do I have cellulite? Or do these shoes go with this dress? Because my answer was always, you always tell me that, am I going out in that? Why would you ask me if you're dressed properly? At any rate, we're out of time and I want to share your contact information. This is live right now. People can see it, but this will also get converted to a podcast and people won't be able to see it. Can you please tell people what's the best way to reach you, or what are some of the best ways to reach you if they're interested in finding out more about your coaching or training or anything else?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way. My website is in the process of being revised. Send me an email. Or on LinkedIn, it says right there, go book a call. Click that button and book a call. Choose the one that says, let's talk LinkedIn. And if you want me to run you through my facial decoding system, Know Your Prospect, send me an email at rhonda@theshermethod.com. Send me your photo and say, hey, I want my facial decoding, and I will send it to you.
And I'm going to actually do you a favor, because Rhonda Sher is not spelled S-U-R-E. Rhonda Sher is spelled S-H-E-R, and she is well worth connecting on LinkedIn. So please check out Rhonda. And I can't wait for that app. I'm really excited about that. And Rhonda, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance so generously. This was fantastic. You're welcome back here anytime. Maybe after the app launches, we can talk again. And I will end as I always do. Gang, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. If you're Jewish, I hope you're having a wonderful Passover. If you're Christian, have a happy Easter. And if you don't believe in any of those things, just have a great weekend. Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.